Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting, reorganizational meeting of SAU 55. As chair of the SAU 55 board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting. I'm sorry, that is not true. The public has access to listen, but they cannot participate. We gave previous notice to the public. This information is posted on public.timberlane.net/SAU with the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting with Zoom. Instructions have also been provided on the board's website at timberlane.net. If anybody has a problem, please call 382-6541, extension 3955. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So, Ms. Lancaster, if you could start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. As the recording secretary states your name, please also state whether or not there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Thank you.
My name is Kat Lancaster. I am currently in my office by myself, but there are other family members in the home. And for the roll call, Brian Boyle.
Present, and there are other family members in the home, not in the room. Also, I want to add to Kim's opening statement, I believe this is also on www.hampsteadschools.net.
Thank you.
Lee Doobie.
I am here. I'm alone in my office. There are other members of my household present throughout the home.
Kimberly Farah.
I'm present. There is no one in this room with me, but there are other members of my household in the house.
Barbara Kishka.
Present. I'm alone in the office. There are other people in the house.
Sheila Lowe's.
Present, alone in the house.
Sarah Mockamer.
Present. I am alone in my office, but there are other members of my family in the house.
Megan Malcolm.
Here, I'm alone. However, there are other family members in my house.
Sean O'Neill.
I'm present. I'm the only member in my office, and there are other members in my household.
Caitlin Parnell.
Present. I'm alone in the room. There are other members of my family in the house.
Kristen Savage.
You're on mute, Kristen.
All right, we'll come back to her. Jennifer Silva.
Sorry, I am here alone in my office. Other members of the household are downstairs.
David Smith.
I am present. I am here in a room alone with family members upstairs.
James Sweeney.
Present and alone, other family members in the house.
Karen Yasenka.
I am alone in my office and other members are in the household.
Yes, I can.
And Kristen Savage.
Not on mute for some reason. I am present and I am currently alone, but there are other members within the house.
Dog.
Am I not?
Sorry, I just forgot I was muted. Okay, thank you. So at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the superintendent. Traditionally, this meeting is opened by the superintendent. I felt that it was best, given the fact that we're in a state of emergency and the right to know law needs to be read, that it would be better to open it up with the chair, just for purposes of making sure that the meeting was opened up in accordance with the emergency order. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, before you do
Yes.
that, I'd like to actually make a motion that we go to weighted voting.
Mr. O'Neill is making a motion to move to weighted voting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sheila Lowe seconds. I'll ask all members of the Timberlane board to vote. So, Ms. Lancaster, you're just going to move down the line on the Timberlane board members for this particular vote.
Brian Boyle,
Yes.
Lee Doobie,
Yes.
Kimberly Farah,
Yes.
Barbara Kishka,
Yes.
Sheila Lowe's,
Yes.
Sarah Malcolmer,
No.
Sean O'Neill,
Yes.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Jennifer Silva.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. So we will move to weighted voting for the evening. Ms. Lancaster, I know you have the weighted vote counts. I will assist you on this as we move forward. So I'm going to let the superintendent open the meeting. I'm going to hide my face here. I need to go get my calculator. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Metzler.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Dean, could you please put the flag up? Excellent. Please stand to salute the flag. Salute. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
To the republic for which it
which stands
stands,
one nation,
One nation,
under God,
under God,
Indivisible.
indivisible,
liberty,
With
and
liberty and
justice for all.
Justice
for all.
Thank you, Dean. At this time, Dr. Farah, would you like to do the approval of the minutes, or would you like to go straight to the election of a chair and let the chair go to the approval of the minutes?
I'll go ahead and do the approval of the minutes. If no one has an objection, we might want to make a motion to accept both the minutes. This will preclude us from doing a second 14-member roll call vote. So if somebody wants to make a motion to put both sets of minutes on the floor, I think that's acceptable.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Boyle motions to bring the December 4th meeting minutes to the floor, as well as the December 4th non-public session 1. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Mrs. Lois seconds. So that we're two sets of minutes. We are looking at the public and the non-public minutes. Are there any amendments or changes recommended to those minutes?
Kim, I have a note here from Kathy Belcher. I think she might be right, talking about that the board, when the board meets in person, we could approve the non-public minutes.
No, there's another set of non-public minutes, I think, that are not.
Okay.
Hang on one second. There's a third set of sealed non-public minutes. That's not what's in here. There's two sets of minutes in here from the December meetings. One is a public, one's a non-public, but the non-public was not sealed. There's another set of non-public minutes that we will not be able to address until the board meets again in person.
Got it.
So no comments, no questions on these minutes? They're pretty short minutes. Ms. Lancaster, could you take a roll call vote? This would be for the approval of the December 4th public meeting minutes, as well as the December 4th non-public minutes.
Session 1.
Non-public session 1, yes, that's what's in the packet.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Abstain.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Abstain.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva. Did she fall off?
Sorry, yes, I was muted. Sorry, Kat. Yeah.
You're a yes?
Yeah, I'm a yes. I was muted while I had the minutes pulled up. Sorry.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka,
Abstain.
Okay, we have moved to weighted voting, so we had 7 Timberlane. Hold on, I have to think about this now. Sorry, we need to get the count right. So we had 7 Timberlane in the affirmative, correct?
8.
8 in the affirmative.
Correct.
Yes.
So that's 8 times 24.05. That's 192.4. And we had 4 Hampstead in the affirmative.
yes.
So that's 16.56.
Clarification, I think we had 3 Hampstead in the affirmative.
Yeah.
Mrs. Yasenka and Mrs. Malcolm abstained.
That is correct.
Okay, so it's 3 times 16.56. Thank you, Caitlin. That's 49.68. 192.4 plus 46.68. So the votes in the affirmative are 239.1. And the abstentions would be 60.22. For those that, I'm not sure if this went out to the entire board or not, but these calculations are based on the ADM for 2017-18, so they're slightly different than what we saw before. Timberlane is 3415.39 total. ADM divided by 16 plus 3, which is 24.05 votes per person. Hampstead is, including the high school students, is 1277.03. By statute divided by 16, then add 3 votes, and that's 16.56 for Hampstead. So there are 299.20 votes total in the weighted vote calculation. That being said, I think we can move on now. We've approved both sets of minutes, so we are now moving down to the election of officers. I will turn it over to Dr. Metzler.
Excellent. Just a quick explanation about how to do this. Is a little awkward. So when we call for nomination, I'm going to open the floor for a nomination for chair. I'm going to ask that you just go ahead and jump in, and I'll recognize you because there's some pictures here, and there's some live video, and there's some names. So I wouldn't be able to tell who's trying to speak. There is no need for a second. After we get all the nominations, if there's more than one, we'll ask 3 times, close the nominations. You'll appoint a chair, and then the chair will take over the meeting from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, at this time, we're going to call for a nomination for the chair of the SAU board for the 2021 season. Floor.
I'd like to nominate Brian Boyle.
Excellent. We recognize Jen Silva from Atkinson. She has nominated Brian Boyle from Atkinson for chair of SAU55. Are there any other nominations?
This is Caitlin Parnell. I'd like to nominate David Smith.
Recognize Caitlin Parnell from Hampstead. She has nominated Dave Smith from Hampstead for SAU chair. Do we have any other nominations? Second time? Any other nominations for chair? And the third time, any nominations for chair? At this point, we will close the nominations for chair for the SAU board. I'm going to ask for you to vote in the order in which the nominations came in. So first, those in favor, and we need a roll call, Kat, if you're ready, for Brian Boyle for chair. Go ahead, Kat.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockmer,
No.
Mrs. Malcolm,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
No.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva, Mrs. Silva,
Unmute yourself, Jen.
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mrs. Yasenka.
No.
Okay, at this point, take a roll call for Dave Smith for chair.
Mr. Boyle,
No.
Mr. Doobie,
Nope.
Dr. Farah,
No.
Mrs. Kishka,
No.
Mrs. Lowe's,
No.
Mrs. Mockmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
No.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
No.
Mrs. Silva,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka.
Yes.
Dr. Farah, do we need a, the results are the results. Do we need a calculation with the weighted voting math, or can I just go ahead and?
No, I think the call was for weighted voting, so I think it should be reported as weighted voting. Using weighted voting, there are 192.4 votes for yes for Mr. Boyle and 106.8 votes no for Mr. Boyle. In the reverse, for Mr. Smith, there are 192.4 in the no and 106.8 for the yes.
So congratulations, Mr. Boyle. You are the chair of the SAU board moving forward, and the meeting is all yours. Good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Metzel. I will now entertain, I will do actually the same, follow Dr. Metzel's lead, and listen to a nomination, I'm sorry, for vice chair.
I'd like to.
Barbara Kishka.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I nominate the technically astute Lee Doobie.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
This is Caitlin Parnell. I nominate David Smith for vice chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. Jack, could you call the roll for those who are in favor of Lee Doobie.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Abstain.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
No.
Mrs. Malcolm,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
No.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mrs. Yasenka.
No.
Okay, I believe that's the full roll. I'm showing 7 Timberlane yeses, 1 abstention in favor of Mr. Doobie. So, Kim, are you going to be our waiting voted guru for the evening here?
Yes, and there are 5 yeses for Hampstead.
There were 5 yeses from Hampstead,
Okay.
and there's also a
And 1 Timberlane, yes. So 5
Yeah.
Hampstead, yes, and 1 Timberlane, yes. That is, sorry, 16. That is 106.85 in the yeses. Hang on, this is the vote for, so,
that's for Dave Smith.
and there's, the Timberlane has 7 no's, right?
We haven't done that.
We haven't
poll
gotten there yet.
We're still on the first one. On Mr. Doobie.
I know, but,
You haven't done David Smith yet.
oh, okay, sorry, okay, so,
Sorry.
got it, wait. So these are, this is the no vote is 106.85, and so the yes vote is 7 times 24.05. So the yes vote is 168.35, and the abstention is 24.05.
Okay, so let's now do the vote for Dave Smith for vice chair. Kat, please call the roll.
Mr. Boyle,
No.
Mr. Doobie,
Nope.
Dr. Farah,
Abstain.
Mrs. Kishka.
No.
Was that a no? You broke up.
No.
Ms. Lowe's,
No.
Mrs. Mockamer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
No.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
No.
Mrs. Silva,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yep.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka.
Yes.
Okay, so for that vote, there's 106.85 for yes, 168.35 for no for Mr. Smith, and 24.05 abstain. So Mr. Doobie is the winner of that election.
Okay,
Thank you.
congratulations. Dave. Next on our agenda here is reappointment of a treasurer. Our current treasurer is Laura Jones, and she is seeking to be reappointed. Can I have a motion to reappoint Laura?
So many.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded. Kat, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva, Mrs. Silva,
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka.
Yes.
It's a full roll, so it looks like it's a unanimous vote. So I think, what's the math, Kim?
That is 299.2.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Assistant Treasurer, right now, we do not have, it's a vacant position. Dr. Metzer, if you could, I guess, re-advertise it. See if we could get some backup for Laura.
We certainly will. We'll get that done.
Okay, thank you. Nominations for appointment of recording secretary. Tonight, we have Kat Lancaster helping us out. And I know we do not have her services in a long-term relationship, if you will, but I appreciate Kat. Thank you for helping us out tonight. So I guess, Dr. Metzer, if you could re-advertise, we clearly have an opening here and a need for a recording secretary.
That is already posted, I think. I asked for that.
Okay.
Yeah, if Kat could just, when she touches base with Kathy Belcher tomorrow or the day after, just a reminder, but if it's already posted, and if you have any applicants, you can get those to the chair and vice chair as they come in.
Okay, thank you. Approval of bonding treasurers. Let's see what we got here. So the superintendent recommends to the board the bonding of the treasurer is consistent with
Point
the
of order, don't we need to appoint counsel?
I'm sorry.
Just skipped over that accidentally, I think.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Appointment of counsel. I believe the current counsel is Deborah Ford.
Jackson and Lewis is the
Law
firm.
firm. Yes. I'll obtain a motion to reappoint Jackson Lewis.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Jackson Lewis.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka, Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
No.
Mrs. Malcolm, Mrs.
Sorry.
Malcolm,
Abstain.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
No.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mrs. Yasenka.
No.
Okay. So we have, apparently we have 5 no's. I'm sorry, 6 no's. One of those is Timberlane. 1 abstention. Does that sound right?
Right. So there are 8 Timberlane yes, 1 Timberlane no, 5 Hampstead no, and 1 Hampstead abstention.
Yes, that's 4 Hampstead no and 1 Hampstead.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, that was my
Quite
mistake.
confusing here. Okay. So so the yeses are 192.4. Oh, sorry, hang on 1 second. The noes are 90.29. The abstention is 16.56.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So approval of bonding treasurers. So I believe we're looking for motion to recommend that we have the superintendent authorize the bonding of treasurers consistent with the DRA and RSA standards. Could I have a motion to authorize
I'll make
superintendent?
that motion, and I would also like to motion that we use TD Bank as our bank depository.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I know it's the next item on the agenda. I just, these roll call votes just,
Appreciate it. Good catch.
so I'm
Okay.
making a motion that the SAU board authorize the bonding of treasurers consistent with DRA and RSA standards, and that we name TD Bank as our bank depository. And Mr. O'Neill seconded that motion.
Okay.
Correct.
Kat, the roll, please, Kat.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is authorization of the SAU board chair to sign professional staff contracts and other instruments as needed. So looking for motion to give me the authorization to sign contracts for professional staff and other instruments as needed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Kat, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah, Dr. Farah,
Kim, did you mute yourself?
Yes, sorry, I didn't realize I muted. Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
No.
Mrs. Yasenka.
No.
Okay. We have what's the tally on that? Looks like we have two, is it 2 no's from Hampstead? And the balance is 12 yeses?
That's correct.
Kim? She's in a little, Kim, you muted there?
No is 33.12, and the yeses are 266.18.
Thank you. Okay, motion passes. Superintendent evaluation process. Every year in the spring, documents has a contract, and the board goes through a 2-meeting process to evaluate the superintendent. It is in your packets. I'd like to put these 10 and 11 together here. My suggestion is to have set up 2 meetings. First one, May 6th, and the second one, May 20th. I guess I'll open the floor for discussion here if anybody, has a problem with those dates. Hearing no discussion. Okay, we will set up a scheduled meeting for May 6th and a follow-up meeting May 20th for Dr. Metzel's annual review. And I think along those lines, I understand, I guess let's deal with this in next meeting. I'm sorry. Ethics policy. Again, in your packets, the SAU55 board adopted a code of ethics statement in November of 2017. So I would encourage you to sign it and send it to the SAU office. Obviously, you're not required to do it, but I would encourage it. Summer schedule, a 4-day work week. Every year this comes up at this meeting where the SAU staff is looking for permission to establish a 4-day work week during this summertime here. So any discussion on this matter?
I would like to say that, we are in transition year for the withdrawal of Timberlane from SAU55. The SAU building has not been open now for, I'm not really certain how long. I feel that the SAU building should be opened 5 days a week in the summer. I would propose that non-salaried employees move to a 4-day work week, and that we allow for the superintendent to arrange schedules so that the SAU building remains open 5 days a week, but non-salaried employees are on a 4-day work schedule, either alternating either Monday or Friday off.
Hello, for further discussion. So,
Well, can I just,
please, Dr. Metzler, please.
the non-salaried employees, you need people to answer the phone, you need people to answer the door, those sorts of things. The salaried people would not be available to run the building like they would with a receptionist and administrative assistants.
Right. So what I'm suggesting is, if you have, just for an example, 10 non-salaried employees, is that 5 of those employees work a Monday through Thursday schedule. The other employees work Tuesday through Friday, so there's always coverage in the building.
Potentially, you only have, off the top of my head, it's just myself, Jeff, and Nancy are the only salaried employees. People will be taking vacation time, and I'm not quite sure what that coverage would look like. I certainly can take a look at it. This was the first that I've heard of this, but whether we are open 4 days or 5 days, based on the commissioner's comments today, we may not even be open in September for school. So I'm not quite sure if this is really that big of a deal, or even, but we certainly can put together some sort of schedule and see what it looks like. I have to check on people's availability.
Well, let's do this then. Let's let Dr. Metzler look at the feasibility of that, and we can. We are scheduled to meet at the very least at May 6th, which is right around the corner here. So that would give, I would think that would give this Dr. Metzler and the staff enough time to assess what's going on here. Barbara, I saw your hand up first.
Yes. So given that the building itself might not be open, but we still need to make a lot of progress on what the school's going to look like in the fall, and possibly the summertime learning. There's a lot of work to do. Can we look at how that's going to be done remotely if that's what we have to do?
Well, I think that's the world we live in now. I mean, for most of us, we're on Zoom calls all day long. I feel like we're meeting more now than when we actually are in the buildings. But yeah, I think we'll know a lot more after Friday when the governor makes his announcement as to what things may look like in the immediate future. But we have to do the work one way or another, whether it's remotely or whether it's at the SAU building in terms of getting Timberlane and Hampstead up and ready to go. So we just don't know what we're getting up and ready to do just yet, because there are so many unknowns about what school will look like for the rest of this year and certainly into the beginning of next year.
Okay, Jen, did you have a comment?
Well, I mean, if we're going to hold off on this, that's fine. I was just going to say, if we can't come up with a plan to have the building open and the work gets done 5 days a week, then I was going to vote against that. But if we're going to wait, then that's fine. Well,
I just think it makes sense that the superintendent just heard about this for the first time 5 minutes ago, that let's see what he can do that makes sense for the staff and and for the public. Barbara?
I just had one more question. On the 4-day work week, are we talking 4 10-hour days?
Correct. That's been the practice is 4 10-hour days. It typically lines up with Timberlane, and Hampstead has done it and not done it in different years for different reasons. But the real goal was initially when this first came up, it was about energy savings and lots of those. But I think the more practical piece to this is really access to the buildings to do work for maintenance without staff. So SAU building, although we've been working 4-day weeks for as long as I've been here, in the summer, there's always people in the building on the day that it wasn't technically the office wasn't open, but there were people in there working. So it was, again, we have a few people retiring. We have some staff turnover. I just don't know what that summer schedule would look like just yet. But like I said, and I appreciate Brian bringing that up. This is the first I had heard of this, so it's something I'd have to take a look at and look at staff availability to see what something like that would look like. You typically need somebody to be there as a receptionist. You certainly need people answering the phones. And then access to key personnel is really the next piece to it.
Okay. I think it makes sense to see what the super can come up with here. Speaking of which, next on the agenda's item is superintendent's report.
I just one question on that, Brian. So whether the buildings are open or not, 4 days or 5 days, why wouldn't we be able to have staff working 5 days a week? Because we did have people working 5 days a week before.
We did. It's a matter of working around the people, like when in offices, whether they're painting or doing maintenance work, whatever that might be. Like I said, initially this came up as a potential way to save some energy. I don't know how to quantify that. I don't know how much energy was saved. I can tell you that then it requires, weekends for people to get into some of these spaces, for maintenance and that sort of thing. And we get into overtime. So there were some expenses there, but it is something that we can take a look at. Like you just said, I mean, even though the buildings were closed, people still go in and work. So it was really more just closed to the public at some point. But again, if maintenance was scheduled to be there to paint, to pull wires, to do electrical work, to do any of that, they would typically have to vacate the space anyway. So they were looking at those days when staff was not in the building to get the work done. I think that was probably the greater benefit. Although, like I said, initially it was about energy savings.
Okay. Dr. Metzler, do you have anything on the superintendent's report?
No, I basically just touched on it. Today I had a lengthy call with the commissioner, and so it's part of we know that we'll know more Friday as far as what the immediate future looks like for the rest of this school year. But there was some caution as to what the fall may look like. So how that factors into our work, and I'll bring it to the SAU level as opposed to the separate districts. We've been getting by. Each challenge that comes up, it's kind of been a one-off. Like, we'll get through this, we'll get through that. First it was a 2-week plan, then 3 weeks, then 6 weeks, and now much longer. So, I had a lengthy conversation with the CFO today, with Jeff Dowd, in regards to we need to reinvent workflow. We need to really have long-term plans now as to how to get the work done. Now the work is getting done, but again, it seems like each thing that comes up, we have to come up with a new way to get things done. We have contracts that have to go out, have to be signed. Those look like those will be electronic for the first time. Those basically have been hard copy, and just a lot of business office work that would be done. The business of the SAU, I think we need to look at it differently, because workflow is not just being interrupted; it's really being reinvented at this point.
I agree, and that leads me right into the next agenda item: future meetings. As the super said, we live in this world that changes on a daily basis. We're all waiting to hear from what the governor's got to say later on in the week, how it's going to affect at least the schools. And I believe, as of right now, I've scheduled a superintendent's review May 6th and May 20th, but I believe we should be just ready at any time and with proper notice to address anything that comes up. And it does have a certain simplicity, if you will. Meeting on Zoom like this, there are certain, it clearly has its positive, has its negatives, and like in non-public, but it does make life easier for a lot of people driving to and from meetings, that's for sure. So I think as of right now, the future meetings we're going to just leave on is from May 6th and May 20th, unless you hear from me. So what I'd like to do now is adjourn the reorg meeting, and we're going to go into a business meeting. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, I've adjourned the reorg meeting, and now I want to reopen a special business meeting. As chair of the SAU board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by audio and video, utilizing a Zoom webinar platform, where all members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and to view by logging on to www.timberlane.net/Zoom SAU55. B, we have given notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. This information has been provided along with the agenda and posted to the board website at www.timberlane.net/SAU and www.hampsteadschools.net. C, we have provided a phone number for the public to alert this public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. That phone number is 603-382-6541, extension 3955. D, we will adjourn the meeting and reschedule if the public is unable to access this meeting. Additionally, all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We will begin the meeting by taking roll call attendance. When members state their presence, they must also state whether there is anyone in the room with them during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So Kat, could you please call the roll?
Brian Boyle.
Here, I'm alone in the room, and there's a family member in the house.
Lee Doobie.
Here, I am alone in my office. There are other members of my household present throughout the home.
Kimberly Farah. You're on mute, Kim.
Kim, you're mute.
Sorry. Kim Farah, present. I'm alone in the room. There are other members of my family in the household.
Barbara Kishka.
Present. I have another member. Oh, I'm alone in my office. I have another member of the family in the home.
Sheila Lowe's.
Here, alone in the house.
Thank goodness.
Sarah Malcolmer.
I am here. I'm alone in my office. There are other members of my family in my house.
Megan Malcolm.
Here, alone in my room. However, there are other members in my house.
Sean O'Neill.
I'm here, alone in my office, and there are other members in my household here who are not in the room.
Caitlin Parnell.
Here, I'm alone in my office. There are other members of my family in the house.
Kristen Savage.
Here, I'm alone in my kitchen with other members of my family in the house.
Jennifer Silva.
I am here alone in my office with other family members in the home.
David Smith.
I'm here alone in the room with other family members in the house.
James Sweeney.
Here, I'm alone, other members in my house.
Karen Yusenka.
Here, I'm alone in my office, other family members in the house.
Thank you. Okay, the first agenda item is withdrawal from SAU. As we all know, there was a vote this March for the Timberlane to withdraw from SAU55. I am encouraged to hear that council representing both boards have already started initial discussion. It's going to involve, I believe, a couple of board members from each board. The Timberlane board has not met yet since this meeting, but from what I understand, there's already, the process has already begun. My goal this year as your SAU chair, I consider this the number one priority, the SAU board, to make as smooth a transition as possible for both Hampstead and Timberlane. Obviously we'll be developing a budget, and that budget will be prepared for the following year. That will principally be Hampstead's budget, and we will, when the time comes, we will address that. But I don't envision the Timberlane board voting on matters that are solely going to be affecting Hampstead. Comments basically on the withdrawal process.
I have a couple of comments here in this withdrawal process. The first is that, yes, your chairs have been speaking with their respective councils. We are, and I will be sending out discussions with the Hampstead board regarding the withdrawal process over this next year. And also in regards to this process, in terms of the SAU lease, and I will ask the Hampstead board to weigh in on this, there's two ways that we can go about it. We could take a vote this evening that by mutual consent that both boards agree that the lease will be terminated as of June 30th, 2021, which would be the last date before the withdrawal. Timberlane has already put the SAU board on notice that the lease would be terminated should withdrawal pass. If Hampstead does not want to take a vote tonight and do it by a mutual agreement, then the Timberlane board tomorrow will take a formal vote, and then I will send a letter to the SAU and to the Hampstead chairs notifying them that Timberlane is releasing or giving notice, the required 1-year notice on the lease. For those that aren't familiar with the lease, it is in your agenda packets down near the end. So I'd like Hampstead to weigh in on this, and what is would you agree to take a vote tonight by mutual agreement, or would you rather me send something to the SAU and to Hampstead?
I'm comfortable with taking a vote tonight to mutually do that. I don't know if any other Hampstead members want to weigh in, but I would be comfortable with that.
Thank you. I'm just pulling up the lease here very quickly. I know it's in here somewhere.
Section 8, Kim?
Yes.
Jeff, go ahead. Is that you, Jeff? You want to say something?
Oh, no, just section 8. I think, is that what you're looking for, Kim?
Yeah. What page is it on the? I lost it in the agenda packet.
Okay. It's on the second page of the lease. I don't know what page. I don't know what page it is in your packet.
Hang on one sec. Maybe
I think it's
page 27
down the end.
It's on page 27.
Yes.
There it is.
You looking for termination? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes. So I'm going to motion that that Timberlane is providing 1-year notice of intent to claim. No, sorry, hang on. I should have thought this through. That by mutual consent of the SAU board, that the tenant will vacate no later than June 30th, 2021. Is that acceptable motion, Caitlin?
That works for me, and I will second that.
Well, discussion on that, I think it makes sense to do it like that, but I believe, as I'm reading the lease paragraph 8, termination, I think it's great we're doing this so everything's in public, but I still think it has to be followed up with a written instrument.
That's fine. I'll send something in writing to the SAU board from the Timberlane board. We'll take another vote tomorrow, but I think it is better to at least publicly state that both boards are in agreement on this.
Okay.
So there's my motion.
Motion been made by Kim, seconded by Caitlin Parnell. Please call the roll. Kat?
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Abstain.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
Yes.
Mrs. Malcolm,
Yes.
Mrs. Parnell.
Yes.
Although, wait a minute.
Yep, sorry.
We'll come back to you in a second. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Now we'll go back to Mrs. Parnell.
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mrs. Yasenka.
Yes.
Okay, Kim, looks like we have 13 yeses, excuse me, and 1 abstention.
So there are 275.25 yes and 1 abstention at 24.05. 24.05 on the abstention. That was a Timberlane abstention.
Point of order, I want to make it clear that I did not, this is a different meeting, and the weighted voting was not enacted at this point. So for this particular vote, I would say it's straight up. But with that being made, I'd actually like to call for weighted voting moving forward.
Okay, so
I'm-
this
I'm-
vote, go ahead. So this vote,
This is a different meeting, Kim. We
Right,
did
right.
the organizational meeting.
Okay.
That's why.
I got it. So this should be 1301 is the vote, Kat. Yeah, 1301. Thanks, Sean.
so now that you have, Mr. O'Neill has a motion on the floor for weighted vote for the, I don't even know if there's anything to vote on.
For the remainder of the meeting.
Okay.
I'll second.
Yep. Okay, motion been made and seconded.
So Kat, you're only asking the Timberlane board to respond here.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Doobie,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yes.
Mrs. Kishka,
Yes.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yes.
Mrs. Mockamer,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Silva.
Yes.
Okay, that's 8 yeses, 1 no. Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next agenda item, Assistant Superintendent. Dr. Metzler, can you give us an update? What your thoughts on Assistant Superintendent? What's going on?
Happy to. Dr. Farah and I have had conversations way back about what the search would look. You know, we had it posted. You know, obviously we had some candidates, and it was open for so long that we don't really know who's available, who's not available. We haven't set up, you know, the search committee and those sorts of things. So that I think that's where we are. I would recommend reposting and then talking about the time frame that you want to commit to, and you know, what kind of search committee, how big, how small, making sure all the towns are represented. You know, those kind of particulars that kind of need to be ironed out. But at this point, I think we're at a point where we would need to repost.
Makes sense.
Are you in agreement, or?
Well, I think since you and I spoke, Dr. Messler, that there has, as was alluded to earlier, that there has been discussions between the board chair and their respective councils, which they will be sharing with their boards if they haven't already. I haven't, just because things are still being kind of hammered out, that we should postpone discussion or posting of this until the two boards sit down and have a discussion about the withdrawal process. So I would table this item for now. I do not think we should be posting this position.
And it's well, I haven't party to those conversations, but is it something you think that's going to be in the work? Well, we have everyone here. So Caitlin, you are the Hampstead board chair, and Kim, you're the Timberlane board chair. So do you envision something happening in the next 2 to 4 weeks?
I'll let Caitlin weigh in on that first. I think right now our council is waiting word from Hampstead Council.
Correct. I would like to say, I would imagine there would be movement in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I can't commit to that only because our boards haven't mutually actually agreed to that yet. So I think our intent, and from my conversations, and from what the Timberlane chair has said as well, I would think we all have the intention that that is what would happen.
Okay. Jen?
I agree. We certainly can't speak for our boards, but we are working to try to at least get something to the point where we, at least as the chairs, feel that we can bring it to our boards. There's no sense bringing things over and over if the chairs aren't in agreement as to how that should move forward.
Jen, go ahead.
Is there a way to call a caucus or something of the individual boards? Because I'm feeling like this is a conversation that I'm not really a part of. I have no idea what's going on right now.
My recommendation would be Timberlane has a meeting tomorrow night, and Hampstead has a meeting Tuesday night. This is not urgent in terms of it's doing a search. Like trying to do something right now is really tricky with the COVID-19 crisis. So it's not like we could do something that quick. And so that would be both boards would have an opportunity to have as lengthy of a discussion as they need to when they're together. Does that make sense?
But we're all here tonight. Both boards are here tonight. So, okay.
Time out. There's as I said, there's discussions between council. My plan is to have a non-meeting, since you're all here, you can be apprised of this, is to have a non-meeting with council tomorrow at 6 p.m. Timberlane board, so that I can fill the board in and council can fill the board in as to what is happening. And I'm guessing that Caitlin is planning some sort of meeting with her board pretty soon. So that's where we stand.
Yeah, that would line up with kind of what I just said with Timberlane. I mean, Hampstead has a meeting Tuesday night. They could do something similar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thanks. And apologize to the rest of the board here because I'm in a little bit of a disadvantage here because there's I think a whopping 5 members who I can actually see. Everyone else is either has their name or a photo. So if anyone that feels they want to be recognized, don't be shy. Just you can feel free to speak and I'll recognize you. Okay, so that makes sense. So we'll put off the superintendent discussion until the boards have a better feel where they're going with this.
So the pleasure of the chair, put it on the that first meeting in May agenda.
I think that makes sense. At least we'll have an update. Hopefully that'll give the boards an opportunity to, to see what their concerns are first anyway. Make sense?
Perfect. I agree. You're not sure what you're looking for. Why post, right? So, but at the end of the day, it's the same pool of candidates in terms of superintendents, assistant superintendents. But that way, both boards will have all the information they need, and the direction will be clear, and we can get that going as soon as you give us the green light.
Very good. Next thing on the agenda, right? Non-public process session. But before we do that, I have in my possession, excuse me, a drafted motion from the attorney Deborah Ford from Jackson Lewis. I'm sorry, firm. So I'm going to read it aloud here. I'll be probably looking. I'm going to read this. I'm probably looking for a motion to follow. The board authorized SAU counsel Jackson Lewis to file with Rockingham County Superior Court. A motion on behalf of the SAU for consideration of the court's April 8th, 2020 decision, and to simultaneously file an application for a stay of execution of the court's order of April 8th, 2020, pending consideration of the motion for reconsideration. The board further moves that it's its desire that Attorney Butterfield's confidential report be held confidential by Dr. Farah as chairwoman, I should now say as former chairwoman, and absent a final order to the contrary, not be disturbed to board membership, not to be distributed to board membership or to the public, as it is a confidential document relating to internal personnel practices and is a privileged communication with the SAU's attorney regarding potential litigation against the SAU, and as such, it is in the interest of the SAU that it not be disseminated. The board acknowledges that Dr. Kim Farah acted on behalf of the SAU in retaining Naomi Butterfield Esquire as an attorney to the SAU to prepare a confidential report on allegations of hostile work environment and workplace harassment by SAU employees. The board ratifies the decision of Dr. Farah and SAU counsel acting on behalf of the SAU related to the retention of Attorney Butterfield, payment of Attorney Butterfield, assertion of the attorney-client privilege in the work product doctrine over Attorney Butterfield's confidential report, and retention of counsel, Jackson Lewis PC, to represent SAU in litigation with the Hampstead board regarding the report. I will get you a copy of this, Kat, for the, that's quite a mouthful, so you can have it for the minutes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I was given information prior to this that this would be discussed in a non-public. And also Hampstead needs to excuse ourselves from this conversation because it's a conflict of interest for us. And that comes from our legal counsel.
Okay. So we can go, we're going to be going to non-public, but that's fine. Yes, I would not expect Hampstead to vote. Yes, I completely agree with you, Caitlin.
Yeah, I mean, the court has already ruled that in our favor on this, so we can't participate in a vote in that respect.
Okay. Well, you can just abstain from the vote. If you want to go into I'll be happy to go into a non-public to discuss. Well, first of all, there is no motion. I was looking for a motion. So
I'll make that motion, Brian, on what you just read.
Okay.
I'll second for discussion if I can ask a question, please.
Go ahead.
The report is held by whom right now?
Right now, I believe the only person who has the remote report is Dr. Kim Farah and Deborah Ford, Jackson Lewis, I believe, has that report.
No one else. I don't believe that to be totally correct. As far as I know, the original Butterfield, of course, since they produced it, and then it went to Dr. It went to Deb Ford's office, and that's where I know is the last part it resided.
Okay, so you have you probably have, and I don't really know if Drum Woodson, even though they hired, I don't even know if Drum Woodson even has a copy of the report. Obviously, the author of the report is Attorney Butterfield. Obviously, she has it. I believe Attorney Deborah Ford told us at our last meeting she had it.
And I also believe it's a true statement that nobody on the SAU board has seen this report.
That's what I thought as well.
Yeah, no, well, correct.
So Kim has the report. Sorry.
Kim have the report? Dr. Farah, do you have the report?
I have a draft of the report, yes.
Okay. So what would be your pleasure? We can go, we can continue this discussion non-public, but right now it's I agree with Caitlin Parnell that obviously it's not, Hampstead is not going to, makes perfect sense. Of course, they're not going to be voting on this matter.
Mr. Chair, Karen Yusenka.
Go ahead.
Yeah, at this point, regardless of what the Timberlane board members want to do, that is solely up to the Timberlane board members. Even though we are a part of the SAU, in this particular case, it's a court case. We are the plaintiffs. You are the defendants. The court has already made its order that it be released within 10 days. Your board has an option to release it within 10 days or be in contempt of court or file for reconsideration or file for an appeal. Hampstead has absolutely no interest in doing any of that. We are very satisfied with the opinion of the court. So I don't think it serves any purpose for us to continue to be part of this conversation, either in public or in non-public.
Okay, Brian, may I step in here?
Sure.
This is an SAU 55 report. I understand the conflict with Hampstead, since Hampstead is part of the SAU 55 board. So I can get legal counsel on the phone in non-public if that's what you wish, but I think there's a motion and a second on the floor. I think what makes the most sense is for the Timberlane board to vote on that motion. Hampstead can abstain on that motion because you shouldn't be weighing in, because the board has to make a decision, and that's the SAU board. It's not the Timberlane board. It's a weird situation, but SAU 55 is the one that's going to make a decision as to what has to happen here. The motion on the floor is to move this to reconsideration and then move it forward should it warrant it based on the advice of legal counsel. So Mr. Boyle, I think there's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Hampstead wants to recuse themselves or abstain from that vote. I don't think you can recuse yourself. You're in the meeting. I think you abstain from the vote. That would be my suggestion.
It was on advice of our counsel that we have a conflict of interest and that we are not to participate. So you can get Deb Ford on the line if you like, but we're following the advice of our legal counsel.
Okay, so Mr. Boyle, what I would recommend
I don't see the conflict here. I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Boyle, they are asking to get counsel on the line about this, so we can bring her on the line.
No, I'm not asking. You suggested it, and I said if you want to, go ahead. I'm not suggesting it. I don't care what Deb has to say.
I see no reason to get Deb Ford on the line to vote. Anyone when you assemble as SAU 55, we right now are the SAU 55 board. We are not the Timberlane board and the Hampstead board. So people on the board who do not want to participate in the vote obviously have that legal right not to do that.
Okay.
So to me, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Brian Boyle,
Yes.
Lee Doobie,
Yes.
Kim Farah,
Yes.
Barbara Kishka,
Yes.
Sheila Lowe's,
Yes.
Sarah Mockamer,
No.
Megan Malcolm,
Abstain.
Sean O'Neill,
Yes.
Caitlin Parnell,
Abstain.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Jennifer Silva,
Unmute yourself, Jen.
Sorry, I abstain.
David Smith,
Abstain.
James Sweeney, Mr. Sweeney,
He appears to have
Looks like he may have dropped off.
on the list there.
and Karen Yusenka.
I refuse to participate in this. Good evening.
Okay. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6. Is it right? 6 or 7? 7 yes. 7 Timberlane yeses. 2 abstentions. No, I'm sorry. 1 abstention and 1 no from Timberlane.
Yes, but This is going to take me a second because I now have to figure out. I have seven Timberlane yeses. I have 1 no from Timberlane
And 1 abstention from Timberlane.
and 1 abstention from Timberlane. That's easy, but now I only have,
You have 3 abstentions from Hampstead and 2 what didn't participate.
Hampstead. So Hampstead now, each vote is proportionally more for each Hampstead representative. So all Hampstead votes were abstentions. So that abstention is 82. I'm just talking out loud. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second here.
Kat, I think it'd be wise to make note of who left the meeting at what time.
I did.
I have 106.86 for abstentions. I have 1 Timberlane no, which is 24.05. It's a no. And then I have 168.39 as a yes.
Okay. Motion carries. So I will notify Deb Ford, because I don't believe she's on the line.
No, she is not right now.
Yeah. Okay. Now I guess we have to go into a non-public to discuss a couple of matters.
Yeah, Mr. Boyle, can I just explain, because the non-public session process for people that are out there and listening.
Go ahead.
I spoke to counsel, Deborah Ford, and I've also spoken to Timberlane counsel as to how to handle non-public sessions. They're both in agreement that Zoom is really not a secure means to hold these non-public sessions. So they recommended that we move to conference calling for the non-public sessions. All members of the board this afternoon received an email from me with both the meeting ID, the phone number, and a password in order to access that. So what will have to happen is we'll have to adjourn from the public meeting. You need to give me a second to dial in the conference number, and then we will go into a non-public meeting on a conference phone. And I'm going to notify Attorney Ford when our meeting is done so that she can go on to the conference session with us. So we are going to have to first take a roll. First, before we do that, I asked this before, right at the beginning of the meeting, if there's somebody that did not receive my email regarding how to access the non-public information, please shoot me an email right now so I can give you the information, but I think everybody's got it. And I know Barbara said she didn't, I sent you an email. I know, I don't think looks like we lost the new member. Oh, Megan Malcolm, I think you should have received it. I have been sending you information. So that's how we're going to move forward on the non-public sessions.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Knowing what I know, if you will, in the non-public, I don't know what, are we gonna have to come back out to take any kind of action? Because I don't think we have to.
I do not envision us taking any action when we come out of non-public.
Brian, I would always recommend that we reserve the right to come back on out and do that. But I would say that we're speaking with the intent of what you think is going to happen, which is good to note. But we should always reserve that right.
Yeah, good point.
So I would suggest that what we do is we ask Mr. Zanello to pause the Zoom recording when we go into a non-public session, and that when we get ready to come out, somebody can shoot him an email and let him know that we're going to enter back into a public session so that he can start so we're not just seeing dead space. I think, Ms. Dean, does that make sense?
Yes, we can either pause the recording or we can remove what would end up being a blank amount of time anyway.
Okay.
If you're all disconnected from this call, there'll be a blank slate anyway. So either we will pause the recording or we'll edit out the blank space. Either way will work.
Okay. So once people leave this meeting, they'll be able to link back on and rejoin it?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep this, for technical purposes, this session will be kept open. However, nobody will be actively participating in it, from what I understand. So you all have your mics muted or either disconnect and return?
Yes, I'm going to request that you mute all mics during this time that we're not formally in session, just to make sure that board members don't accidentally leave their mics on.
Will do.
Thank you.
I'm just going to disconnect and then I'll reconnect.
Right. I mean, that's preferable, but some people may just have their computer open. So I'll just ask that Dean disconnects all the mics, and board members be cautious of the fact that you're going to be on a conference call. You don't want your Zoom open for other people to hear it.
Okay.
So I think we need to move to a roll call vote to go into a non-public session. I think, Kat, you'll have to make that roll call vote. I know we're gonna, I will take the minute, I'll take the minutes during the non-public sessions.
Well, I think, yeah, so we're going in under RSA A:3, Roman 2A, compensation. Definitely pending litigation. L. Yeah, I'd say A and L anyway.
So
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Lee made the motion.
Second.
Who made the second? Oh, Barbara, thank you. So Kat, could you call a roll, please?
Ryan Boyle,
Yes.
Lee Doobie,
Yes.
Kimberly Farah,
yes.
Barbara Kishka,
Yes.
Sheila Lowe's,
Yes.
Sarah Malcolmer,
Yes.
Megan Malcolm,
Yes.
Sean O'Neill,
Yes.
Caitlin Parnell,
Yes.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Jennifer Silva. Jen, unmute.
Yes, yes, I know.
David Sweeney, pardon me, David Smith.
Yeah.
James Sweeney
Yes.
and Karen Yusenka.
Yes.
Okay. So you're gonna set this thing up, Kim? The
So
phone?
Yes.
you're now going into non-public?
Yes, we're going into non-public.
All right, Kim, I'm looking for that email. So you need us to call into that number you sent us in an email?
Yes, but I first need to call into the number to initiate the call. So don't dial too quickly or you won't get on.
Okay.
And you'll need the user ID and everything else. So
Yeah.
give me 1 second, and I'm gonna get off here and dial up that number. And I'm notifying Attorney Ford that we're getting ready to go into that session. So I will see everybody in the non-public session, and then I'll call the roll again just to make sure everybody's there.
Looks like everybody back on here. I don't see.
Kim's not on yet.
Let's see, Kim. Man,
Sheila, you on?
Sheila's got me on, yeah. Sheila's
I'm
on.
here.
Yep.
Oh, I made it back.
Kim's on.
Oh, my camera's on.
Okay. We are back. So I guess before we adjourn, we have to obtain a motion to seal the minutes with non-public.
Are we all here, Brian?
I believe, let's see, we're all here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're all here. This
Okay.
board is here.
I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor, Kat, please call the roll.
Brian Boyle,
Yes.
Lee Doobie,
Yes.
Kim Farah,
Yes.
Barbara Kishka,
Yes.
Sheila Lowe's,
Yes.
Sarah Mockamer,
Yes.
Megan Malcolm, Megan,
He was there a second ago.
we'll come back to her.
Probably hit the wrong button.
Sean O'Neill,
Yes.
Caitlin Parnell,
Yes.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Jennifer Silva,
Yes.
David Smith,
Yes.
James Sweeney,
Yes.
Karen Yasenka. Is that a yes or no?
Yeah.
And Megan Malcolm.
Hi, sorry. What are we doing right now? I just,
The motion to seal, this is a motion to seal the minutes, Megan.
oh, yes.
All right, everybody's a yes.
Okay. Is there any other business to come before the board tonight? Hearing none, I will join the meeting. I want to thank the board for their patience. This is this is a little bit of a challenge here, conducting meetings like this. And thanks, Kim, for the assist here. This isn't not my strong point here. So thank you again. And Dr. Metzer, I will be getting in touch with you regarding one of the matters.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.